Hello, welcome to How to Win a Search Award. I'm Judith Lewis, and I'm one of the judges of the UK, EU, US, and MENA Search Awards. I've been around in search for since 1996, and thank you for thinking I don't look that old, but we're not here to talk about me. We are here to talk about award entries. Now, I get a lot of questions about our judging timeline because I'm one of the more visible judges. I speak at conferences, so people can approach me and ask me about it. And what I'm going to try to do here is just cover how it works and then move on to tips on filling out your award entries. Now, we do a lot of work, a lot of unpaid work. None of us are paid in any way, so we don't submit the hours that we do. We just do 2 or 3 days or 4 days worth of work judging entries because we are passionate about the industry and we want to see everyone do better. So we get about 65 to 85 award entries because we're broken up into teams. When you see that there are 700 or 800 award entries, pity us. Because even if there are 20 judges and we're broken up to 6 or 8 teams, that's still a heck of a lot of entries that we have to read through. Now, we read through all of them in our group. So hopefully we only have less than 120 award entries to read in our group, and then we score them all. That scoring helps create a shortlist. Once the shortlist is created, the entire judging panel comes together, usually on a call for the US Search Awards, in person, a lot of the times for the UK Search Awards, or people will join us by calls on the UK Search Awards. And of course, MENA Search Awards, it's often a call, and EU Search Awards, a lot of us will get together in one place, but then there'll also be a lot of other people joining in a call. So we all come together as a huge, complete judging panel to judge the shortlist. We will often all read the entire shortlist group of entries. So that's up to 10 entries per category across 25 categories for a day of judging. Yes, that's a lot of reading to do. So understand that we are giving a huge amount of our time to do this, and we're quite serious about it. And then once we've done that, we get the short list, we've read through it, we then argue about who should win. And a lot of what I'm about to go through also is taken into account when we look at who should win. Once we've chosen who should win, then a day or two later, the short list is released. Yes, that's right. We know who's won before the short list is known by everyone. And then, of course, on the night, the awards are given and everyone knows who's won. But the judges know who's won before the shortlist is even released. We know who's been shortlisted before anyone else. And that means that we can't be swayed by massive ticket sales or sponsorship or anything, because we already know who's won, and that's not going to change. So there's a lot of work that's being put in by our judging team and a lot of effort that goes into judging things. We throw a lot of tools at these entries. We don't just take your word for it. We work hard to make sure that we check what the award entries say to make sure that they're legitimate. So we're taking a lot of extra effort with awards, and we work really hard to try to make them as fair and as honest as possible. So it can't be swayed. It's not easy to sway 20 people to win an award, and that's what has to happen. So we all take it seriously, but we also all have to read the entries, and that's why we're doing this webinar, is we see the same mistakes time and time again. So there is one simple trick that if you do this trick, you will most likely get shortlisted, if not win. I know it seems radical. One thing that if you did it tomorrow on your award entry would almost guarantee you shortlisting, let alone a win. Everyone should know this. As a matter of fact, it's the same thing I have been saying since the first year of the UK Search Awards, and that is match your objectives to your results. In fact, let me give you a tip. Bullet point everything. Do a bullet point for your objectives and match each bullet pointed objective to your results. Use numbers, use real data, use tools that we can validate to support your results, and that way you're almost guaranteed to shortlist, let alone win. Why? Because a very few number of people are actually doing this. It makes more work for us if we can't tell things. So look, in this example entry, what exactly are the objectives? Can you tell? Pause, read. Can you tell? No, I don't think so. Why? Because I made this up. And so I know you can't. And that's what I'm going to do, is I'm going to show you examples of bad entries in the hopes that you don't do this. Bullet point your objectives and make them count. In the results, match your bullet pointed results to your bullet pointed objectives. Because if you do this, then it's going to make a huge difference to us. We're actually going to be able to see what's going on. That's so important. If we can match objectives to results, you'll probably get a higher mark. Scores are what shortlist people. And then, if we can easily match your objectives to your results, you might be more likely to win in the category. Top tip, enter more than just the best SEO campaign. And bigger top tip, make sure that when you're entering for best agency, you're entering 2 other examples of your campaign work as well. We like to see it in the case study section, but also if we can see that you're entering for more than just best agency, we have a higher degree of confidence in your work. Other hot tips from my fellow judges and myself, you can see here. Of course, you can pause this webinar at any time. So I'm going to go through it without going over it because each of these tips will be covered. Fill in all the sections. Oh my goodness, the number of times that I've seen blank or missing sections, or we have to hunt for materials. Look at this. Now, of course, this is fake. So all I've done is deleted the implementation and creativity section. But you can see here that if it's missing, I can't give it its 1 to 10 score. So you get nothing. If you've missed a section, you can lose 1/5 to 1/4 of your overall score. And that means it's going to be hard to shortlist. Don't leave us hanging. Don't make us search out through all your supporting materials to figure out what it is that your objectives are, and then try to find your results somewhere else. By filling in the form the way it's meant to be filled in, it makes it easier for us. Pictures don't add to your word count. Liberally use screenshots. And then, to give us bigger versions, attach a PowerPoint or PDF. But remember, we don't want death by PDF or PowerPoint either. So try to make sure that you fill this in concisely and add screenshots where appropriate. We don't need a lot of extra waffle, except in implementation and creativity. Don't make us hunt around. Look at this. This is, again, it's a faked up example. Yes, I was watching Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs when I did most of this. And yes, I was looking at a Bubblegum's Shrimp Shack advert when I wrote this section. So yes, it's all fake. But it's fake to illustrate a point. These might, in some circumstances, seem legitimate and reasonable, but please, we can't pick out what the information is that you want us to know in here. If you get too flowery or too verbose, we don't understand. We're not as intimate with the entry as you are, so it's hard for us. Choose the correct category to enter. If you're doing integrated search, you need to be doing more than just SEO and PPC. If you're entering best use of social media, you actually have to include what social media you use. And yes, I've had entries for best use of social media that didn't actually include what social media they used. No surprise that they didn't win. Don't lie. We will, all of us, use a variety of different tools. And that means that we will catch you out if you're lying. Use screenshots from tools that we recognize. Don't use spreadsheets or internal beta-only tools. Prove your numbers, and we can do math. So don't think that we need the things calculated out for us. We can do it. Just give us the list of stuff that you've done and support it with screenshots, and it will all be good. Bullet pointed to match your objectives, and it'll be fine. If you say you've improved on SEO, and we look and we're like, I can't see that in any tools, give us Google Search Console data, because at least that will prove that you actually improved where you said you did, even if external tools aren't showing that, because we know we can trust Google Search Console. A spreadsheet, not so much. If you give a budget with actual numbers, we'll actually give you more credibility and credit. No money, no honey, as they say. If you're not going to give us budget, we are going to mark you down. Some judges will mark you down quite significantly. Now, obviously, I've never had an entry ever that read, note, we would prefer not to specify staffing costs or budgets or anything to do with money because that's gauche, and we're clearly too cool for school. Never. But we do often get in entries that don't give a budget, and they often don't win. It's just that simple. Keep the word count to 1,000, or we will let you go over by 100. At a stretch 200, please don't double the word count. Please don't use supporting materials to expand your word count, and please don't use 4,000 words. Yes, I had an entry with 4,000 words and no prizes for guessing. They didn't win. Explain what you did. Explain why you did it and how you did it. We're not mind readers. We didn't work on the campaign with you. We're judges. We can't enter if we're judges, which means that we don't know what you did. So show us what you did. Show us screenshots. Show us URLs. Help us understand what you've done so that we can mark you higher, so that you can win because we understand what you've done. Look at this entry. Look, bullet points, yes, but there's no concrete numbers attached to it. Strategy, bullet pointed, great, but you know what? It's too vague. It's too wishy-washy. I know I said bullet pointed, but you have to be specific. You have to make these SMART objectives. You have to make the strategy and target audience reasonable and show us why. Implementation and creativity is where you should absolutely go to town and go crazy, and that is where most of your word count should be used. We need you to give us screenshots of tools we trust. So show us the data. If we can't back it up and we use external tools and the external tools don't back it up, it's not going to be good for you. Also, it has to be data from the actual entry period. Please don't give us data from 2 years ago and say, look how awesome that was. That's great. That was 2 years ago. What did you do for me lately? So it has to be recent. This is obviously the time frame here is off because I had to use something from my blog, but you can see here what I'm talking about. Nice spike, good view. It's Google Search Console, so we know it's legit. Supporting materials are not part of the core entry, but you can do big screenshots there if you're worried about us not being able to see the screenshots in your entry. Everything needs to be clear, but please don't expect that all judges will read supporting materials. I only read them when I need clarification, and they will be referred to if there's an argument about who should win, but they're not a core part of the entry. Don't get flowery outside of implementation and creativity, and remember, we are human. So if you are arrogant and antagonistic in your entry, we might not score it well. So if you say something like, we're better than all the judges because we're awesome, the judges aren't necessarily going to respond very well to that because we're human and we have feelings. And again, this is a fake entry, but you can see the arrogance coming out in this. You can also tell I was watching Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs really clearly here. But we want you to tell us why you should win without being arrogant, without being pumpy. Just be yourself, be clear, but also inspire us without angering us. Demonstrate your creativity in implementation and creativity. This is where we really want you to go to town. This is where we want you to focus all of your effort. And that's why I keep repeating through this webinar that you should be doing creative thinking and implementation and creativity, because this is where we want you to really focus your effort. Bullet points for objectives, bullet points for results. And yes, that is a lot of work, but we want you to actually inspire us in implementation and creativity. Thought leadership is for agency and individual awards. We want you to show us how you're doing something outside of what you normally do for your day-to-day job. I always say you don't get a cookie for doing your job. So if you want to win an award, show us what you're doing outside of your business. Are you donating time for the agency to work on charity things? Are you speaking at conferences around the world? Have you taken time out to improve the vision of search in the outside community by speaking to small businesses at functions outside of marketing and search functions? We want to see what you're doing to advance the search community. Make me care about what you're doing. Obviously, this is a fake entry again, but this is an example of you don't get a cookie for doing your job. It's your job to create content around keyword research. You should be looking at what you're doing outside of that. Just because you're good at your job does not mean you deserve an industry award. An internal award, sure. You can have awards for your staff, but not an industry award. The tools and data section really needs us to be able to put our own data in. Give us a logon and let us populate your tool with our data. That way we can measure it head to head. There have been problems in the past where we haven't been given logons at all, let alone non-pre-populated logons, and it makes it difficult for us to give you 20 out of 40 points. As you can see here, I've taken this directly from judges' guidance. So when we're given information about how to score, this is part of it. And you can see 20 out of 40 points go to usability. How easy is it for us to look and use it? And performance, which means we need to test it with our data to see how it works. So please, don't pre-populate it. Just give us a logon. If it needs to be 4 weeks in advance in order for it to populate from our tools, fine. If we need to give you Google Search Console access, Google Analytics access, Adobe Analytics access, whatever, fine. Let us populate your tool and it'll be better. The agency entry should use SMART objectives very specifically. A lot of judges look for SMART objectives and truthfulness. We all have had challenges. Even the in-housers know what it's like to be in an agency because they have to deal with them, and they become friends with us and with other agencies, and they know what our challenges are. So to be shortlisted, show us strong campaign work, enter strong campaign work, give us a photo of the team. Don't be shy and retiring about your team if you're entering an agency award. Don't be arrogant, be open. How are these SMART objectives? They're not necessarily time limited. They're not necessarily measurable. They're not necessarily relevant. They're not necessarily achievable. So give us SMART objectives. If you follow this advice, you won't be guaranteed to win, but you're more likely to win. Make sure you match objectives to results. I cannot emphasize that enough. Use bullet points if it will help. Make sure that you're honest. Give us screenshots of tools we can trust. Give us the data. Make sure you include your budget. Don't do the math for us. We can do it. Make sure that you include your team. Make sure your objectives are SMART. And the biggest part of your entry should be implementation and creativity. Don't waffle on and on and on and use too many words. 4,000 words is not going to win you an award. 1,200 may. Important links for the EU Search Awards are here. Important links for the MENA Search Awards are here. We also have the important links for the US Search Awards and, quite predictably by now, I hope, the UK Search Awards link. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to get in touch with the Don't Panic team. A lot of judges are passionate about improving the search entries, so please follow these points. Improve your entries, make us care, and you're more likely to make the shortlist, let alone win. Thank you so much for watching this webinar, and good luck with your entry. I look forward to judging them soon.